I want to talk about a specific chapter of your book before we, finish. I don't want to let that go because speaking of like what you said was most proudest that you feel about this book is people like taking something from it and seeing how it worked in their life, right? Well, I got to say, you know, that happened to me with this book because I read that chapter specifically. I haven't read the whole book, but I wanted to make sure I started there because it's chapter 9 and it's what about the men, right? Well, I thought that's me, right? So let me see. Let me
Right.
start there, right? What can I do? And I think that's the biggest question a lot of men have is what can they do? I don't even know where to go. And sometimes women, maybe their partners, so they don't even know what to tell them, like what to do. You know, I guess I loved it. Honestly, reading it and hearing about your husband as well, to be honest with you, props to him. Shout out to him.
Mhm.
Amazing gentleman. I learned about him as well in this, and it was just great to read this. And I feel like more of this needs to get out.
Yes,
More
yes,
things like this for
absolutely.
men need to get out so that we can learn about what to do and how to make the most impact, right, and working together. And yeah, so I'd like to dive into that a
Sure.
little deeper. Like, did that chapter just come together for you very easily? Did you lean on your husband? I know he's in it, but did you like lean on him, like helping you write it? Or I don't
Right. That's
know,
a good
yeah.
question. That's a great question. No, he didn't. He didn't. He doesn't have the patience for it, but that's a whole other thing. No, he comes from an era where, as a man, he always had somebody, women to do it for him.
Yeah.
So, if he needed something written, he could just, delegate it to somebody else. So
Yeah,
that's kind of the
hilarious.
way. So, but yeah, so the title of the chapter came from the question exactly as it is asked of me all the time. And what about the men?
Yeah,
So I decided,
totally.
well, okay, so I'm going to just call the chapter, and what about the men?
Yeah.
so what's in the chapter, interestingly enough, I wrote in a few hours, just a couple of hours, on a plane ride back to the US from Barcelona. I had been at a meeting with a friend, and I cannot remember what triggered this for us, but we started talking about something or other, and I'm like, I need to write 9 leadership power tools for men. And
Yeah.
so I literally knocked that chapter out,
Wow.
taking from the 9 leadership power tools that I had written in my book, No Excuses, the previous book before intentioning. And I followed that outline fairly closely. And I found that I could easily adapt them to some of the issues that either the questions that men had or some of the complaints that women often have. And
Yeah.
it's almost, it very often comes down to, would you just listen?
Gosh,
Just listen,
absolutely.
just listen. If you can just listen, everything else will work itself out. That's the main thing. But it's we can joke about it, but it is that differential in socialization. And again, the males are born with a certain kind of privilege that doesn't require you to listen as intently. And women are born being told they have to be nice. And so that means you have to like let other people talk first, and it's a curse for women. Honestly, it's a lot of what holds women back from raising their hands and saying I want that job, or saying no, I'm not going to do this,
Yeah.
or just speaking up for themselves and advocating for
Yeah.
themselves. So women need to learn to speak up more, and men need to learn to listen. It's pretty
Yeah.
simple.
I couldn't agree more. I know I need to listen more. I've been told that several times. So, yeah, look, you're right. It's definitely something I've always struggled with. I like it's true.
Well,
But I can be,
we all can
I
listen.
mean, for
Yeah.
sure, for
Uh-huh.
sure. There's no question there about that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. Well, like, let's say, what's like what's the I guess is that the biggest or the question you get the most is just what can I do as a man, or is it more specific?
Um, I that's a question that I often get is, almost every time I speak, there will be somebody who will say, "Well, what about women who aren't nice to other women? I had a
Okay.
female boss and she wasn't nice to me," or
Yeah.
I've had more male mentors than female mentors. Well, that's not a surprise because men are still in 80% of the leadership roles. So if you're going to have a mentor, you probably want to have some male mentors as well as female mentors. But people are hypersensitive to women not being super nice to other women. And when you see a woman, like, say, for example, I'm trying to think of her name, the head of Theranos, who's now on trial,
Oh, Elizabeth something?
Elizabeth Holmes.
That's it,
Yeah,
yeah.
she's doing business unethically
Yeah.
and potentially harming a lot of people. It that rubs off on all women. I think people see it as being, well, there was a woman who was a bad actor. So it's those are the kinds of things that are really hard. And I do get that question every single time. And my answer to it is that, unfortunately, the people who hold more power are often not nice to people who hold less power. And that's one of the things we have to change by changing how we're thinking about power in the first place and how we distribute power, and
Yeah.
understanding and appreciating that everybody has something to bring to the table. So that, but that this, but statistically, women actually help other women more because one of our survival mechanisms has been collaboration with other women. And so what we can do as a society, as parents, as leaders, what in whatever position we might be, is to encourage that kind of collaboration. Because again, if I help you and you help me, we both have more. And
Yeah.
and if we learn that's not taking away from us, if we learn the power of joining together to get work done. Ever think of the old quilting bees? So the women in the West used to have, that was their social life. That was the only
Yeah.
time they had a social life, and they did those things to help each other. And we need to have that quilting bee mentality as women and recognize that we can make a really nice quilt if we work together. Try to do it by ourselves, it's going to take us years.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well said.
So
Beautifully
that's a,
said.
that's a big question that I do often get, and I think it's an important one, but I think it's also sometimes a misinformed one. And
100%. Sounds like it.
we always judge. If there's a group that has been in in an othered situation or oppressed situation, they're always going to be judged more harshly, and we got to get over that.
Yeah. 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 It's like that's not even like the real problem.
Right.
Yeah, right. It's like why are men even thinking about that? Like that's the least. It's like one in a million over
Mhm.
here, sort of thing. Yeah, that's not the majority by no
Right.
means.